Hello and welcome to the Sunshine Cathedral. We hope that you have enjoyed a wonderful holiday season. And as we enter this new year of 2015, we invite you to worship with us here at the Sunshine Cathedral on Sundays at 9 and 10:30 a.m. If you're in the Fort Lauderdale area, we're very easy to find. We invite you to worship with us in person. But if you're worshiping with us via the website, we say many blessings to you and hope that you will have an opportunity to visit our campus soon. But now, as we enter this new year of 2015, join us now for the exciting worship here at the Sunshine Cathedral.
First reading is a reading from the wisdom of Norman Vincent Peale. We do not know much about the Magi who came to Bethlehem at the time of Jesus' birth. We do not even know their names. We do know from the biblical account that they came from the East, the center of wisdom and culture in those far-off days. They said they saw his star in the East. Intuitively, they followed it, for they knew it heralded some great event. Indeed, his star rose, and it has been rising ever since. What a story. The thing that Jesus Christ did in this world and is doing now is to teach us that right is good, that the truth always prevails, that, as someone said, truth crushed to earth shall rise again. He tells us that wrong will not endure, that wrong will never turn out right, and he has drawn to himself a vast multitude of people who follow him, who are true to him, who themselves are righteous and upright, and who know that good pays off, both in individual lives and in the life of the world. In these human words, God's voice is heard.
Our second reading is a reading from the Gospel according to Matthew. The Magi set out, and there ahead of them went the star that they had seen at its rising, until it stopped over the place where the child was. When they saw that the star had stopped, they were overwhelmed with joy. On entering the house, they saw the child with Mary his mother, and they knelt down and paid him homage. Then, opening their treasure chests, they offered him gifts of gold, frankincense, and myrrh. Now after the Magi had left, an angel appeared to Joseph in a dream and said, "Get up, take the child and his mother, and flee to Egypt, and remain there until I tell you." Then Joseph got up, took the child and his mother by night, and went to Egypt. This was to fulfill what the prophet speaking for God had said, "Out of Egypt I have called my son." In time, an angel suddenly appeared in a dream to Joseph in Egypt and said, "Get up, take the child and his mother, and go to the land of Israel." Then Joseph got up, took the child and his mother, and went to the land of Israel, to the district of Galilee. There he made his home in a town called Nazareth, so that what had been spoken through the prophets might be fulfilled. He will be called a Nazarene. In these human words, God's voice is heard.
Well, Happy New Year. And Merry 11th day of Christmas. And happy 2 days before Epiphany. And, whatever else. Actually, I know that there are people here celebrating anniversaries and birthdays. Well, just what a great day of celebration this is. And a lot of people are preparing for weddings, and so what a great day of celebration this is. My rural family, now I realize that I always come across as this stunning and urbanite, that I seem very cosmopolitan, but the truth is my family are from small rural areas in Arkansas and Tennessee, far removed places that the Jehovah's Witnesses haven't found yet. Places that don't have Knights of Columbus halls even. They're far, far away. And when trying to get to one of those tiny faraway places to another tiny faraway place, people would often say, "You can't get there from here." And actually, I've translated that. What they would say in their native tongue was, "You can't get there from here." You can't. That C-A-N''T, that's a contraction of the words can and not, but it's pronounced can't. So you always learn something at the Sunshine Cathedral. That's, you can't get there from here. And what that meant was, there wasn't a direct route. You couldn't get there easily. There wasn't a straight and narrow. You just couldn't jump on an interstate and be there in 15 minutes. There was a lot of winding roads, and it was difficult to get there. There would be a bit of a journey. But of course, you could always get there from here. Here is the only place to start from to get anywhere. So if you're going to get anywhere, you start from where you are. You can always get there from here. Journeys aren't always easy. They sometimes take longer than expected. And they sometimes end in places different than what we had originally planned. But on the journey, so much is learned and amazing things can happen. The journey changes us. The journey is where we grow. The journey is where we become who we really are. And so even though it takes a long time to get there and there's some zigs and zags along the way, that is the journey that is building us, that is shaping us, that is forming us, that is blessing us en route. On Christmas Eve morning, the Reverend Dr. Johnny Coleman passed away. Dr. Coleman is someone whose teachings have inspired my spirituality, especially in recent years. And when Reverend Coleman was a young woman in the 1950s, she was given a terminal diagnosis. The doctor called her to give her the news over the phone that there was no available treatment and she would probably live 6 months or less. Devastated, understandably, she walked into the living room to process the information she had just received when she noticed a religious magazine sitting on the table. And the cover said, "God is your health. You can't be sick." Well, she didn't believe it because she had just received a phone call telling her she very much was sick. And not only sick, but wasn't going to get any better. But here is this message on a magazine cover that was so audacious and so hopeful, she couldn't let it go. She argued with it. She was angry about it. And at the same time, something stirred within her that made her want to pursue whatever it was saying. Her mother, whose magazine it was, encouraged Johnny to go to a spiritual retreat center in Missouri. And she did. And that began a spiritual journey for her that led to some amazing results. It was at that retreat center that she learned about positive, practical spirituality, and she enrolled in classes, and she became a teacher of the philosophy and a minister, and of course, all of this took much more than 6 months. Later, she founded her own church, and still later, she started a new denomination and a ministerial training school. A few years ago, Reverend Coleman had another health challenge and went into retirement. But her ministry continued to thrive, including her denomination and her ministerial training school and her mega church in Chicago. Then finally, just a few days ago, she departed this world more than 7 decades after she was told she had 6 months to live. Oh, Dr. Coleman, by the way, is the one who coined the phrase that we use so often here at Sunshine Cathedral. I am the thinker that thinks the thought that makes the thing. Thank God for her healing journey. It has inspired many others. Just the empowering notion that I am the thinker that thinks the thought that makes the thing in my life. Reflecting on Johnny Coleman's story got me to thinking about other life journeys that I find inspiring. And one of the stories that came to mind was my grandmother's story. She became a teacher in World War II when there was a teacher shortage. To recruit elementary school teachers, the state offered a 1-year teaching certificate program. You took 1 semester of classes, 18 credits, and then you took another semester of practice teaching, 12 credits, and then you got your 30-credit certificate, and they put you to work. They figured a year of college should make you no more than a third grader, and so you could go to work. Now, of course, non-degreed teachers didn't earn as much as degreed teachers. So my grandmother went back to school every summer to pursue her degree. 10 years into her 36-year teaching career, she finally completed her bachelor's degree. She did this as a single mother. She and my grandfather had divorced when my dad was just a baby. Now, a teacher in Arkansas in those days didn't make a lot of money. In fact, my grandmother's last year teaching, she only made $12,000. She said she made more in retirement with her combined pensions, her teacher retirement and her Social Security, that she made more not working than working. My grandmother, though, despite never making a lot of money, had 2 prospering practices that she maintained her whole life. She believed in tithing and she believed in saving. Even when times were lean, she put something in the savings account every single pay period. And she also would write a check to her church every single pay period. And in her whole life, she never once asked for anything in return for her gifts to the church. Giving was an act of worship for her. It's something that she gave lovingly. It's something she did out of joy. She gave her gifts like the Magi did in today's gospel, freely, lovingly, happily, for the joy of doing so. Old-time religion got a lot wrong, God knows. But good stewardship was something I think they may have gotten right. My grandmother, a child of the Depression, was pretty frugal. And not only a child of the Depression, but someone whose career didn't pay a lot of money. So out of necessity, she was pretty frugal. She would start buying Christmas presents in July to have them paid off by Christmas. She never had a dishwasher, other than her own 2 hands and her grandchildren. She drove the same old car for decades. Towards the end, rust is all that was holding it together. And she ate many more vegetables out of the garden she raised in the backyard than she ever bought from a supermarket. Saving, tithing, and wise spending. That was her simple spiritual economic philosophy. Give to yourself, give to God, and live within your remaining means. That was how she lived her life. When my grandmother died, in 2002, that country school teacher who drove a jalopy and grew her own vegetables and did Christmas shopping in the summertime left her family 60 acres of land, 2 houses, and $600,000 cash. Now, there are people in this room who have more, but in her context, that was a fortune. And for someone who never made more than $12,000 in a working year, it was a miracle. My grandmother knew that God was her source, and her source was unlimited, and she tapped into that source by spending wisely and saving and tithing. By saving and sharing, that was part of her spirituality, and it helped her then to live within her means and have even more to share, as it turns out. Her life journey was an incredible one, filled with miracles. My grandmother's older sister, Lois, also a teacher, had her own journey. When she was 89, she was diagnosed with an aggressive cancer. The doctor told her the treatment would be too harsh and probably ineffective, so he counseled her to get her affairs in order, and he would do all he could to keep her comfortable. She counter-counseled him to start the treatments post-haste. Yes, she was 89. Yes, there was limited days ahead, way more behind her than ahead of her, but it wasn't his choice to make. And if all she had left was the choice, she was going to make it. She was going to be responsible for herself. Well, so she took the treatments, and she survived the treatments, and the cancer went into remission, and she lived another 7 years. At age 96, she went out to get her hair done and have lunch. She came home, she stretched out on the bed for a nap, and she died peacefully in her sleep with a fresh coiffure. One wants to meet one's best when meeting one's maker. Now let me add that sometimes the promised land isn't found until 40 years of wandering around lost. Sometimes the time of bondage is followed by a time of being lost, that hardship follows hardship. But it's the vision that keeps us going. And if we will continue to follow the vision on the other side of it, there is the miracle. Sometimes the healing isn't a cure. Sometimes the abundance isn't a big bank account. And sometimes the overnight success takes a decade or two or longer. But the journey toward the goal is filled with lessons and moments of unfettered joy and grace equal to every need. My father died at 67, way too soon, but there was healing in those final days. There was healing in those final 2 years. Even when it doesn't work out the way we want, there is good for us. There are good things if we know how to look, if we will know how to see and seize them. Sometimes it works out just the way we wanted. Sometimes it works out differently, but still good if we will pay attention. Sometimes the journey lasts longer than the destination. A 14-day transatlantic cruise is 9 days at sea and 5 days at ports. The journey is longer than the prize, unless you love the journey. And then the journey becomes a gift in and of itself. The Magi would have traveled for 2 years. And for what? To spend 15 minutes with a toddler? I doubt if the Magi story is historic. I didn't mean to offend the toddlers in the room. Did you hear that in the room? Like, hey! There was 18-month-old talk back there for, hey! You should be so lucky, is what that just was saying. I doubt if the Magi story, though, is historically factual, but I appreciate its timeless spiritual truths. The Magi traveling from Persia to Palestine and back again, and the Holy Family traveling to Egypt and back to Israel. Who knows if these trips actually occurred? But the stories tell us to keep moving, to keep trying, to keep believing in the future, to live every day as it comes, to keep holding to a vision and keep following that vision into a realm of infinite possibilities. It's a new year, and that means there are new miracles in store for us if we will dare to journey toward them. Now, enough for the intro. Let me start my sermon. This church community, working together, has shared an incredible journey. From rented space, to a home in Sailboat Bend, to a building behind a diner, to this resplendent property. From a handful of people in the 1970s to reaching people all over the world today. After moving to this property, it took a while to grow into it financially and programmatically and so on. And for the first decade of the 21st century, this church was really hurting financially. And a lot of the bricks and mortar, a lot of the physical stuff we have, a lot of the beautiful things we have, the windows, the organ, and so forth, we wouldn't have if not for the help of our foundation, the Sunshine Cathedral Foundation. And even while that ministry was making sure we had a beautiful place to be, the operations side suffered for several years. We had taken big leaps of faith and just hadn't caught up to it yet. And so we were stretched thin. The reserve accounts were empty. We owed hundreds of thousands of dollars, not in good debt like a mortgage, but in just not being able to pay bills and them stacking up. But that turned around thanks to sound management principles and spiritual integrity and unified leadership and following a vision and not giving up and the generosity of people who love the mission and values of this church. And today, all reserved accounts are fully funded. We ended 2013 and 2014 with no aged payables. 2014 was the third year in a row that we ended in the black, and 2014 was the second year in a row that we were named the best spiritual center in South Florida, and a publication that had run non-flattering things about us earlier. And today, we are more diverse than ever, having more age groups from toddlers to people almost 100, and being led by the most gender-balanced staff and board in the church's history. Not everyone applauded our efforts or celebrated our successes, but we kept moving forward. We kept the vision before us. We kept following the star that was before us, and we didn't give up, even when it took longer than expected, even when there were detours along the way. And while the journey still isn't over, just look how far we've come. We feed people spiritually and literally with our food collection program. We reach people all over the world by means of the internet. We have helped untold numbers of people believe that God loves them just as they are. And we are at the forefront of celebrating marriage equality in Florida. And with your faithful support, we will achieve so much more. Just as we have as a church, we can experience miracles in our individual lives. The same principles of seeing beyond the problem to the possibilities, of following the vision, of believing in those possibilities, of believing in ourselves, of working together and moving forward. Like Johnny Coleman, you may hear that a situation is hopeless, but you can hope anyway and do more than anyone ever expected. Like my grandmother, it may take a decade to reach your goal, but the journey to success can start today. You may have been given some very bad news, but like my great aunt, you can say, it's not over until it's over. I'm going to keep moving forward and give miracles a chance. Isn't that how we got marriage equality in 35 states? The Magi had nothing but a dream and a star. A dream and the light of God is all we ever need to begin a journey of hope. It's a new year. Leave the old complaints behind. Leave the old anxieties behind. Leave the old regrets behind. Leave the old fears behind. Stop listening to every gloomy Gus and Debbie Downer, every naysayer and prophet of doom. It's time to remember that I am the thinker that thinks the thought that makes the thing. I get to choose what I believe about myself. I get to choose what I hope for the future. I am the thinker, and I'm not going to accept anyone else's thoughts anymore. I will choose to believe the best and move forward with the light of that belief. Let's make 2015 the best year of our lives so far. It's a lofty goal, but we can get there from here, and our miraculous journey begins today. This is the good news. Amen.
Hello, I want to thank you for joining us for worship today here at the Sunshine Cathedral. Again, if you're ever in the Fort Lauderdale area, please stop by and worship with us on Sundays at 9 and 10:30 a.m. If you'd like to find out more about the Sunshine Cathedral, or about our resources, or about our books published by our senior pastor, the Reverend Dr. Durrell Watkins, or if you'd like to make a donation to the Sunshine Cathedral, please visit us at www.sunshinecathedral.org. Until the next time, may God continue to richly bless you on your journey.
I have seen